Welcome to the Soft Issues podcast, brought to you by Foundation Bike Fit and Frequency Cycle Works, where we dive into the niche worlds of bike fitting, bike servicing, and reveal the hidden side of the bike industry. Ev's not here this week, so we've hijacked all of the podcast, including the intro. He's going to be livid. This week we're bringing you a blast from the past, an old episode which we didn't get around to releasing last year, but it's got some gems in it with Lee. In this episode, we focus on what reasonable expectations should be when taking on a challenging event such as an ultra-distance race. Should you expect to get numb hands? What level of discomfort should you tolerate? And how would you go about deciding what is reasonable for you? If you're taking on a multi-day challenge this year, like Land's End to John O'Groats, Rab, the Transcontinental, or the Celtic, this episode is for you. Oh, and by the time you listen to this, I can confirm that Lee made it to the altar and is a happily married man. Right.
Welcome.
Well, this week we've only got bike fitters in the room, so that's a bit novel, isn't it?
So we're going to talk
It's
about
going to
bike
be
fitting.
riveting, isn't it?
Of course it's going to be. Everyone wants to hear what a bike fitter has to say, don't they?
We haven't got Ev to temper the conversation.
Temper the conversation.
Change it back to some wheels.
Well, I don't know, what can we get away with when Ev's not here?
I think it's going to be a lot more relaxed. We're going to be quite chilled out.
Lee says this tongue-in-cheek
Yeah.
after the conversation we just had 5 minutes ago off air, where I was absolutely raging.
Oh, thought you were going to say that he's getting married, so how can he be...
Oh, there's that as well.
Yeah. How many days to go, Lee?
3. It's Saturday.
days.
So it's very exciting.
It's that £10 green smoothie, it's chilled you out.
It was £7, thank you very much. And it tasted like shit.
But it's
anyway,
good for you.
It's good for me. And I feel really healthy now.
You look
so
well.
I've washed it down with a cup of tea.
Like 4
But we're
ginger
going to
lads.
talk about expectations today. aren't we?
Expectations?
Yeah, expectations from what you would expect from a bike fitter. So customer experience,
Thought you were
when
going to
you-
talk
I thought we were going to
about
get expectations about your wedding.
Wedding, yeah.
That's far more interesting.
expectation for a wedding. I mean, I'd imagine the amount you pay, you just get someone to just do it, put it in a box, and then you just go and collect the box, and then it all happens, and then you go home. But it's not like that, is it? It's terrible. It's
Wedding
too
in
much
a
work.
box.
Wedding in a box.
Yeah, you might
Call it-
actually have to get up and say something.
No, I'll do it, but it'd just be like in a box. You know what I mean? It would just be like a sheet that's handed out to you. And
A
this
wedding
is your
in a box.
speech. Somehow they have algorithms to know what you want to say, what you should say. All the context of all the guests. Imagine that, wedding in a box.
It's called ChatGPT, mate.
Expectation of bike fitters, though.
Is that the
We'll change the subject.
God, I'm on it.
segueing
Jeez.
into, yes, that sounds like the retool of the wedding world.
Retool, yeah, no,
Retool does weddings.
100% always correct retail, isn't it? There's never any kind of white area. It's just complete answers, isn't it?
They're hard to argue with a robot.
Yeah. Because it knows the angle, so it's absolutely fine.
I don't know. Is ChatGPT always right?
I don't even know what that is.
Oh my goodness.
What is it?
You're a lucky man. Please just stay there.
Okay.
Don't even look it up.
I got told about OnlyFans also was it 2 weeks ago? I'm not even aware of that. Apparently it's where you just show people your bits for money, is it?
Things are going to change once you get married, Lee.
Led a sheltered life, haven't you?
No, yeah,
I'm
no,
quite
it's nice.
envious
It's
in a way.
nice though, because I don't hear all these things. Certain artists as well, like modern music. My God, do you know what I mean? It's terrible.
My knowledge of music stops around 1900.
That's a fantastic thing.
1900. Is that before trombones?
No, we're calling trombones again, aren't we?
Yeah.
But fun fact,
Alright,
here we go.
then.
the first major work to utilise the trombone in its kind of modern form, i.e. not a sackbut, that's completely different, was Beethoven's Fifth.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
When was that?
18 something or other.
Ah.
Early 19th
You narrowed
century.
it down to the century.
Yeah. Early 19th century, something like that.
Nice.
There you go. Beethoven, thank you for championing the trombone.
Well, he didn't though, did he? Because the first bit he wrote, first entry that you make is really freaking high, and you have to wait about 370 odd bars before you come in. Your instrument's gone cold, your face is numb, and it's just basically the
Why is your
worst
face
possible
numb?
entry. It's so hard. I remember doing that in Leeds City Hall when I was about 16, and playing the alto trombone part, and I just like spaffed that entry like all over Leeds City Hall. It was like disgusting. And it ran around for like 11 seconds. I was like, this is appalling. Like, how could I possibly contemplate doing this for a job? But I got away with it, and it was fine.
And you did it for a while, didn't you?
Yeah, a little while. Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, Beethoven's got a lot to answer for. I prefer the dog to the composer.
The dog. Oh, I do know
You've
that.
seen Beethoven,
Yeah.
haven't you, the film? Yeah, there you go.
I've seen that one.
That was
Yeah,
where your
alright.
mind went,
One
wasn't
time.
it? Yeah.
Saved it there.
That was where your
Saved
mind went. Beethoven, the dog.
How are we going to relate that back to bike fitting now?
Beethoven.
I don't know. Expectations. Yeah.
Expectations versus reality.
Mm.
There you go. You think you're going to soar over the orchestra with your first entry, spaffing it all over the back wall. Not ideal.
We've been talking about something quite specific, but I think that as a bike fitter, when I did a race, and it was only 2.5 day race, I had numb hands, and I've still got numb hands. And this has been about 4 months now. So I think more people should be aware of, regardless of fitness and regardless of training and regardless of a bike fit, you probably will have numb hands after these kind of things because it's not a natural thing.
I don't think it's just specifically numb hands, is it? It's some sort of pain, discomfort, and what is a reasonable expectation, a reasonable level of pain and discomfort relative to the event that you're doing, right?
Yeah.
I think that would be like more kind of general kind of way to look at it, or weigh in, if you like, rather than going into like, obviously you've got your specifics with your kind of numb hands and that sort of thing, but it's things like saddle discomfort, like discomfort for your feet. James Hayden and his neck, like the Transcontinental a few years ago.
That's Sherpa's neck for anyone.
Sherpa's neck, yeah. Whether it's like, it could be whatever, not just hands. So I think it's kind of like, we do more and more crazy things, like riding literally across continents, clues in the name, Transcontinental. But it's like, what is a reasonable expectation of what a bike fit will give you in the context of your event, really? Because basically, like, the way I look at comfort on a bicycle is comfort is the position you can sustain for the desired duration and the force output requirements of your event, right?
But you can't do a bike fit in 48 hours, so that's the...
But that's the thing, isn't it? It's
yeah.
like, if you, like, the longer these events get, like, that's, from like triathlon context, that's probably like more applicable. But when you're kind of looking at your event and the duration is like weeks rather than hours, that's a different game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of, what is a reasonable expectation of quote unquote pain and discomfort, and when does the kind of the rubber hit the road, really? That's kind of what I find interesting, especially about these, like we talked about ultra distance before, but especially with these sorts of events of what is do your expectations meet your reality, in a sense?
I think, and in particular, it becomes a particularly poignant conversation when these kind of events are becoming more normalised. Like back when I started doing endurance sport, it was the marathon was like the insane thing to do. It's like,
Marathons are hard, man. Like,
they are hard.
They're so hard.
They're super hard. Tell us how it goes, man. When you get to do yours.
If I survive
December.
it. Yeah.
But the marathons used to be the hard thing in an aspirational event, and it's just got longer and longer and longer. Now marathons are normal. Every Joe Blogs goes out and does a marathon to raise money for charity.
Or every weekend, random weekend, go around a marathon.
And it's not enough just to do one. Who's that fellow who just completed like 100 Ironmans?
Sean Conway, 105 Ironmans in 105 days.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
What?
The previous record was like 101.
Yeah.
James Lawrence, the Iron Cowboy, trademark. I don't think it's a trademark.
How would you be able to like eat and like sustain that? Like, that seems mad.
Yeah, you need a lot of help.
But what is interesting is the aftermath of how he's describing his recovery, or lack thereof of recovery, is mind-bending. Like, the stuff his body's going through is just terrifying.
Maybe it's like irreversible, that kind of
Give
thing.
him
That's
a follow,
mental.
because he's wicked. Like, I've got a lot of time for Sean Conway, but like what he puts his body through is like otherworldly.
Yeah. I mean, he's an exceptional individual.
Yeah. Mentally as well as physically.
Yeah, absolutely. But these are the guys that everyone's looking up to and aspiring to be, and you're have a go, weekend warrior, is just going to go, yeah, right, let's go do, even just doing an Ironman. Ironmans aren't enough anymore.
Well, it's taken me nearly 10 years to recover from the one I did.
Yeah.
Never again.
Yeah. So marathons, Ironmans, your 100-mile sporty, 100 miles on a bike, that's just normal stuff.
That's still a long
these
way.
days.
100 miles on a bike.
Yeah, but
That's a long way.
But
But
Instagram normalises it, doesn't it?
Yeah, we're just going to go bash out 100 miles this weekend, just as if it was a local.
Because if you talk
run.
to your friends, like I remember when I first started cycling road cycling, where it became a bit longer, I remember talking to my parents and I was like, oh, I'm just doing 100k today. And they're like, what? 100 kilometres? That's a long way. It's 4 hours of exercise, really. 4 hours of exercise I know it's not the same, but a marathon, most people take 4 hours to do a marathon. It's crazy. But it's not enough anymore. It's not nearly enough.
Not nowhere close.
Yeah.
But yeah, 100 kilometres is a car journey.
Yeah. I mean, a long car journey as well.
It's not a short one.
If I went, so if I drive to, I don't drive, but if I drove to Bath, that's about 100 mile, is it?
A little bit longer. It's like a 3-hour car journey.
Really? I've cycled to Bath
It's
before.
like 200. Well, it depends where you start from, doesn't it? But it's a couple hundred.
Yeah, I consider that to be a long car journey.
Well, it's like, you take the Transcontinental. You start in Belgium, end up somewhere down like Turkey way, Greece way. That's a flight. It's not a bike ride, it's a flight. You know what I mean? So, normalise it, or how this stuff has become normalised is like mind-bending.
So a bike fit is still really important because you're still going to get like all these positions. Because you imagine if you, for example, you didn't have a bike fit and you had a saddle height that was maybe 3 centimetres too high, just as an example, all of those things that you'd have without the bike fit would be exacerbated by the fact that you're overstriding, obviously over pedaling essentially for every single time you push down the pedals. So a bike fit is still incredibly important, but it's not going to answer all the questions.
But if we take you as an example,
Yeah.
because you did, what was the race you did recently? It was like...
It wasn't that race anymore, but now 600.
Yeah, so Banal 600, right? It's 600k, 600 miles.
600k, but it's mostly off-road and lots of elevation.
Quite rocky, lots of elevation, but 600k, and your bike position was pretty close, right? Like, you'd hope so, bike fit.
I'd like to think it was alright.
But you're in a good position. Your body isn't making like massive compensations for something that's like glaringly obviously wrong, right? So if you think about that kind of context, where you're riding, I mean, you did that on what, your open? You got an open wide, like big old tyres, like well fitted, a reasonably kind of competent tool for that kind of job. Like there's nothing kind of glaringly obvious that's kind of like wrong with your setup, right?
I trained for it as well.
You trained
Fitness
for it.
was good.
Yeah, fitness was good, training was good.
Did a plank now and again.
Consistent. Yeah, did some strength, I'm assuming.
Yeah, a little bit.
So like there's a lot of stuff that's gone right in your build up to that. Like, I'm assuming that you planned your nutrition, like all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that's gone right. Even in that context of like trying to like optimize as much as you can, you still end up with what? A numb hand 4 months later?
Yeah. And that's only 59 hours as well.
Yeah, so only 59 hours.
Oh yeah, but
Most
compared
people,
to a lot of these events,
yeah, some people don't work that in a week. You know what I mean? So a lot of people don't work that in a week. It's just a long time to be doing a continuous activity. So, but the point I'm trying to make is that you've optimized like a lot of stuff. You're kind of like starting from a good place, and you're still ending up with kind of with problems afterwards. So, what is kind of like a reasonable expectation? Where does the kind of like the disconnect happen between what you expect, a very arduous, challenging endeavour to kind of cost, if you like, in terms of like the cost to your body? Where do those expectations and reality kind of fall apart, and kind of where's the disparity between the two?
It's difficult. It is really difficult because I was quite shocked that I'd had that. I had slight numbness before the race because I was training so much off-road as well. So I just thought, oh, that's a little bit strange. But I had a really nice barbecue a few weeks ago, and there were 2 GPs there. And I was telling them about the race, and I was saying that I'd got a little bit of kind of numbness, And
he's just pointing at the heel of his left hand.
Yeah. So and the lady was just like, well, even if you spend like 2 hours on your ulnar nerve here, if you push down on that nerve, that's not good for you. So if you're doing that for 57 hours and also the time before, this is obvious, and I was actually seeking their advice because I had like one of those tests because I just wanted to double check if anything was going on anyway. And I was just trying to seek reassurance, but like, it's just normal. Like, you're going to get that. Like, there's nothing you're going to be able to do unless you're actually able to kind of hold yourself upright for that long. This is something that's going to happen. It's just kind of part and parcel of ultra endurance.
Well, interesting. There's a Guinness World Record for the longest plank, isn't there?
Ooh,
It can't be longer than a day.
It's like, I think it's 9.5 hours. Some Australian lad who's like, gurning like his face off holding this plank.
9.5
hours.
Jeez. I wonder what the recovery from that is.
Oh, mate, measure that in months. but if you think about it, like, you know, a bike, like your bike position is essentially a slightly less stressful plank. If you're trying to hold a plank for like 2 weeks, you know, riding across Europe.
I do 2
Not
minutes.
well, is it?
I do 2 sets of 2 minutes, but I think
Two
that's
sets of
all right,
2
isn't
minutes.
it? That's all right, isn't it?
Yeah.
My body's trembling by the end of it.
But that's the point, isn't it? Like, you know, those practitioners that you saw advice from, they were like, well, if you put pressure on this kind of all the nerve,
you're restricting the nerve. Simple as that. It's not rocket science.
No.
Well, even if you think about it from just the context or perspective of doing anything repetitive, we even know that sitting down for long periods is not good for our bodies, because our bodies kind of they don't really work in the way they are supposed to. We'll be able to move, and certain things will shut down. We don't use certain muscles and so on. So your body becomes less capable. If just sitting down for extended periods of time is not great for you, what do we expect to happen when we do something like cycling, which is a very restrictive position, and we stay in that position for 57 hours? Do we expect that to be kind of reasonable for our bodies? Like, is our body going to be happy at the end of that, having just being constricted to a certain position for a long period of time?
We want it to be, don't we? As an individual.
Of course, yeah.
And we don't see any of the aftermath. Obviously, we saw things like the James Hayden Sherpa neck, because that was quite dramatic and they could put kind of a picture to it. But there's very few athletes after these events that talk about the recovery. And I think that's... I'd like to see a little bit more of that, because I think it does romanticise it a little bit less, because you're not seeing the whole picture. You're seeing someone grovelling through a race, not sleeping. Some mornings they'll have amazing time, some evenings they'll have a super horrible time, but generally speaking, we see obviously the nice things. It's arduous, it looks kind of heroic, but at the same time, they might take months to recover, and then to be able to even get back and enjoy the bike just in a normal way, which is,
Well, what we see is the highlight reel, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's a lot more kind of like people are being more transparent with what the effect is with their bodies. Like, Sean Conway's doing that with his 105 Ironmans. Like.
So what is his recovery out of interest? Like, what's going on with his body?
It's
body's just shut down.
Yeah,
really.
I think it's just in a state of shock.
Really?
Well, it's just the best part of nearly almost half a year of doing an Ironman every day.
Oh my God.
Like, when you put it like that, that is just, it sounds ludicrous. Like, I'm going to do an Ironman every day for almost like half a year.
Would you so I'm just thinking,
mad.
how would you train for that? But then, would you just train as you go along?
Yeah, in many circumstances, I believe that you can't train for this amount of volume or distance. It's just so much that it puts so much stress on your body that you just have to kind of absorb it and kind of learn on the go in a way. I mean, in some ways, that's part of the attraction of ultra distance. It is the unknown. It is the, can I actually do this? There is a scary part of it that I don't know if I can actually complete this. So it is a challenge, and that challenge is attractive. It gives us reason.
I was reading. I've read it a few times actually. It's a good book. Emily Chappell, Where There's a Will. She talks about it quite a bit actually, where there is like a come down of these events, and I had it as well. Like, because you're training so much for it, and obviously if you achieve it, it's probably the better side of it, because I imagine if you end up scratching, you probably have a worse time because you're like, oh, I didn't do it. But like, upon completing these things, and you obviously feel really elated, and maybe you'll break down in tears, maybe you'll just kind of, just feel like you've accomplished something amazing. And then you have this huge kind of come down, which again is the kind of the sad part of this kind of racing, because it's not.
It's the post-race blues.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I've done that, now what's next?
Yeah. But your body needs rest.
Your body needs rest, yeah, but it's always that kind of like, oh, is that it? Because the expectation never kind of, it's the expectation is always that much more than the reality of
For
it.
sure, yeah.
And it's like, you know, like, what's it? People can win Olympic, like, not that I've got experience of this, obviously, but like, you know, you win an Olympic gold medal. It's like, oh, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Now what?
What next? Yeah.
Better go and win another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's always like on to the next thing. And, you know, that come down, that kind of almost like hollow feeling afterwards, it is a thing.
It's weird, isn't it?
It's kind of like this, it's kind of like gratification, you know, like, you know, you go out on Saturday night and you're looking forward to that like horrible dirty kebab, and it's like amazing for like, you know, your first bite of it, and then it's like, oh no.
I don't know, when I'm drunk,
it's
I
like-
really enjoy the whole kebab, I must admit.
But it's a similar sort of thing, isn't it? It's like, you know, the gratification that you get from something never meets the expectation of the build up to that kind of moment. Does that kind of make sense?
I guess it does in a very depressing way.
Well, you know, I'm a glass half empty kind of guy, aren't I? So.
Well, if we pull the kind of peel back even more layers, then it's really about, you know, what that race means to you, and all the effort that you put in as an individual. You know, what we're really looking for as individuals and humans on a very basic level is just belonging and significance. Like, you know, what we do on this planet or what we spend our time doing has to feel significant. We have to feel like we're worth something. And so if we pour our energy and our time into a very hard task, that makes us feel very significant, like that our efforts are, you know, are going towards a very worthy cause. But when that cause finishes, then we're left empty, like, oh, I haven't got anything significant left to, you know, do. Like all my effort and my energy that's gone into this event is, you know, done. So I'm done as a person.
I guess it's trying to be like significant, you know, doing things that hold significance, and like, yeah, that I agree with what you're saying completely. It's just that it's that meaning. Like, it's like, I think when we were maybe a bit younger, like I remember doing music because I was like, it's a significant thing, and when I stopped doing music, that was like a massive deal because I was like, this is everything, you know, this is who I am. And then obviously doing something else, you feel like you've kind of failed in a way, and you know, there's different ways to think about it. But I think for me, like where I was there, I was like, oh, what next? Oh, I'll get into ultra distance cycling, or I'll get into something else that's equally. And then when you go traveling, you can do certain things. You can go hitchhiking, you can travel like, you know, crazy destinations. There's always something that you can do to test yourself. And I think people are essentially we're just wired that way. We just want to test ourselves, and we just want to, well, I guess there are a few people that don't do that. But I think it's just quite a normalised thing now. We just want to test everything. We want to experience as much as we can. I think you were saying overstimulation.
yeah, everyone's like overstimulated.
Yeah.
Because like there's this constant kind of need to kind of like be doing, and like to kind of like you know, showing your worth and all this kind of stuff. And it can depend. Yeah, it can range from, you know, running the local 5K to, you know, if you're a billionaire, got space tourism. You know what I mean? It's like different for everyone. Like, but it's, yeah, and I think this is a very modern phenomenon. Like, because like humans have basically reached escape velocity. There's no reason for us to be here. We don't need to be here. Like, the planet doesn't need us here.
Sorry about this, listeners.
Yeah.
But it's true. Like, you know, like in terms of like, you know, the survival of the species, completed it, mate. That's like, you know, that box has been checked.
We'll mess it up though. This is going to be a huge paradox because
We're doing an amazing job of that already, aren't we?
We're going to blow ourselves up, and then the world's going to carry on. It's going to be fine.
Yeah, like, and you know, you want to get into like that sort of thing. Like, if you want to tackle like climate change and things like that, don't frame it as saving the human race. Or the planet.
Yeah.
Frame it as saving the human race. Then something will get done about it.
Yeah.
Let's go back to bike
That's
fishing.
true, because the world is going to spit us out. You know, it's going to be laughing. You know, and then someone else will come along, some other bacteria, and
So don't get
Quite
too
fitting,
don't get too hung up on your race results.
But that's
Is that what
the
you're
thing,
trying to
it's
say?
perspective,
Because there's
isn't
no
it?
importance
It's
in it.
perspective. Like, you know, like what is very important, you know, to you, and you know, we're not trying to like, not like, you know, there's validity there. Like, I'm the same. Like, you know, why do I try and run marathons? Like, because, you know, in my own little head, I need to like be less mediocre than I was the last time. Yeah, so these things have a significance, obviously, but it's helpful to have perspective as well. And what is difficult for one, i.e., you know, say Sean Conway doing his 105 Ironmans, or, you know, Ross Edgley swimming Loch Ness, or whatever it is, which is also mental, by the way.
How big is Loch Ness?
It's pretty far. It's like,
It's got a monster in it. It's going to be pretty big.
The monster is quite big, I've heard.
I think it's like 13 miles.
And they
13 miles.
they do a marathon, don't they? Loch Ness Marathon is like end to end.
It's end to end.
So it's got
Actually-
to be at least.
I don't know if it is end to end.
I think it is end to end.
Okay.
Slightly downhill.
Slightly downhill.
Yeah.
I don't follow enough swimming to know what constitutes as a long way. I know what a long way to run is, or a cycle. What's a long way to swim?
10k.
10k, that's a long way. That seems so short. How long does it take to swim 10k for like a professional swimmer?
For about an hour and a half, hour and 20, something like that.
Hour and 20?
I don't know.
Okay.
They do Olympic open water 10k, don't they?
Yeah. So Ironman's like.
Ironman's like 3.8 if you swim in a straight line.
Yeah.
The top pros are doing
Yeah.
that in like under 45 minutes
Yeah.
now.
Okay, what about endurance swimming? That's like...
So, yeah. So if you double an Ironman,
Add a couple of minutes.
yeah.
Okay.
So an hour and a half and about 2 hours of swimming maybe.
Okay.
You know, it's
That's like going like a fairly high pace.
yeah, that's going fast.
It's faster than we can swim. Let's
Yeah.
just
Oh yeah. I'm not a very good
It's
swimmer.
faster
My
than we
legs
could
just
not
tend to...
drown.
Yeah. I mean, Olympic distance at the Olympic Games, then distance swimming is like 10k.
Mm.
Yeah.
So
The longest they go in the pool is 1500.
yeah,
So
horses for courses.
Interesting. Okay.
But yeah, like going back to endurance rides and endurance races and so on. I think a lot of people won't be able to think about all of this kind of context and the stuff that we're talking about unless they've done an event, if they've thrown themselves into it and taken some of that experience. Like part of the attraction of these insane, slightly silly events, long distance events, is that there is a big element of the unknown and you just have to go and experience it. Like back, like what do you call it when you're a student, when you go backpacking, you kind of go to see the world, you go to find yourself, because you don't
Find what you're made of, I think, because that's what these events do. You really do find out what you're made of, because you will have some dark times.
yeah, where it's, and whether or not you know that you're going to be doing that or not, like you're going to have to face those situations, and you're going to have to face what your brain and mind come up with, and it's really about that dialogue and what you do and how you deal with it that I think is the valuable part of doing these kind of crazy events. But you know,
I think like expect it to be hard is kind of the underlying.
yeah, I guess it's really hard for people to understand or expect. What should you expect really out of it? You should expect anything.
You should expect it to be really hard, really rewarding in equal measure, because it basically is that, isn't it? It's not going to be anything but. I mean, the one thing we should mention also is that the actual atmosphere, everyone is super friendly, super nice. It's actually a very nice
I think like there's a point here that I think Way's trying to make is that if we've all experienced, we've been burnt by the iron, so to speak, like of doing something that maybe we're not that capable of doing at that kind of period in time. If you've got no reference point, then how do you know like what to expect? Like you can expect it to be hard, but what does that entail? What does that mean? Like if this is your first kind of like kind of exposure to this sort of thing, like you've got no idea what to expect, and like there's nothing that can prepare you for what you're about to receive, so to speak.
Yeah, if someone told you that you were going to have a numb hand for 4 months after your event, would you still want to do it?
I'm actually not sure.
Yeah, so, like that kind of question. It's like, I don't think everyone should get like a numb hand when you go and do it, but it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, it's quite common.
That could happen. All kinds of things could happen. Transcontinental is a dangerous race. People died on it. But that's just kind of part of the attraction. But also that's why the entry into it is carefully managed as well. There's a huge questionnaire, and you are asked to provide serious answers about, you know, how you're going to do this and question yourself. But, you know, as many people have come through the studio and told me in confidence that, you know, yeah, I've signed up to this kind of race, I've definitely chewed off more than I bargained for, but I'm still going to do it, you know, because, you know, it's there.
I think the majority of people that do enter these races, I think they are quite tongue-in-cheek, and they're aware that they might not have trained as much, but they are people that are generally adventurous. They're people that are just up for pushing themselves in the nicest way possible, because they're just like, you know what, let's just have a go. And there is something really nice about that, because, for example, like you think of like the crits around here, for example, when you think of the atmosphere and the way it's kind of set up and stuff like that, not just here, as in the velodrome, but I always feel a bit funny. I feel quite intimidated by these things. Sure. And the actual the kind of attitude to these type of races is completely different. The mentality is a lot more open. I must admit I find that a lot more alluring than, you know, the local kind of crits, because it's not as interesting.
But it's like we were saying earlier, it's like you can only prepare for these things so much. It's like the UTMB happened at the weekend. The guy that won it broke the record, like ran, I think.
Christian Miller.
So it was Jim Ormsey, first American to win the Ultra Trail Mont Blanc running race.
Wow. Okay.
He did it in under 20 hours. It's like 176 k's around Mont Blanc.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So it's serious stuff. And like he looked like he'd, you know, been hit by a truck afterwards. Like, you know, put a bit of effort in the lab. So, but it's that kind of thing. It's like there's a point in running where like the whole purpose of training is like you break your body down and you get better by recovering, right? So, you know, training breaks you down, recovery builds you up, pushes the fitness forward, blah, blah, blah. We all know that. But there's like a point where you kind of fall off the cliff. Running, that's about 5 hours. So you can run for 5 hours. You go beyond that, you're not getting any kind of benefit. Like, it's just your body is like so depleted and getting broken down at such a rate that you're not going to be able to kind of get any benefit from or the benefit you're going to get from that sort of training is not worth the recovery cost, because it's going to take too long to get back out again. So, and yeah, there must be a similar kind of thing. You know, there is a similar kind of thing with cycling as well. It's like you're trying to train for a race that lasts 2-3 weeks. Like, you know, you're not going to go out and ride for 2-3 weeks, are you, in preparation? Like, so there's only so much you can do to prepare for these things in advance, and that's part of the attraction, like you say, where it's like, oh, you know, can I actually go and do it? So you can't prepare for the whole thing 100%, but it's going back to this expectations thing. It's like, right, what can I reasonably expect? Even if I haven't done it like that sort of thing before, what would be a reasonable expectation for my body to possibly kind of go through? You just kind of like, and the only way you get to know this is by talking to people who have done it, that sort of thing, gaining experience through others as well as experience yourself, right?
And there's so many different variables as well. Like my experience could have been so much different because of the weather, especially in Wales, but it was actually lovely weather. It was really nice.
If you'd have taken a mountain bike to that race,
I probably would have had dumb hands.
You probably will, yeah. Well, maybe you
bigger tyres, suspension, I'd have been absolutely fine. Also, because I'm not on my own nerve, my hands would be rotated on the bar.
So it's tools for the job as well, but you know, you don't know that.
I do know it now.
Well, you haven't done it, have you? So.
I'm gonna.
That's the thing. You're going to go back and you're going to go back and try it, but there's no amount of prep that can prepare you for certain things.
Absolutely, you never know what's going to happen. You don't know how your body's going to react, especially as a first time.
Yeah, but I also feel like you can test as much as possible. I guess no one really feels prepared enough going into these events, because you can't really prepare enough for it. So everyone always comes in saying, oh, I haven't done enough training or whatever. But I think, as you were saying, that, you know, talking to other people, getting their experiences, prepares you mentally and prepares that expectation of what could happen. You know, if you knew that getting numb hands was a potential, you would have to think and process that and add that to your kind of equation of like, well, do I want to do this, if that's kind of part of the equation or not? And I think that's where a lot of people maybe don't test enough before kind of really kind of going for it, or go into it with an attitude of, well, yeah, let's just do this. It's going to be, you know, just another race. But really, it's not going to be just another race.
Or preparing for that eventuality. So it's like, right, okay, if you know that you might be susceptible to, say, numb hands or numb feet or whatever, what can you do to prepare your body beforehand to kick that can, so to speak, as far down the road as possible? So is there stuff that you can do that doesn't involve riding your bike, so to increase the capacity of your body to be able to deal with the potential load that it's likely going to experience over the course of
Chris from Strength and Endurance always says he doesn't care what you look like after 10 reps or 10 miles or whatever. He wants to know what you look like after you've done 100 miles or 10k of swimming or whatever. What does your body look like? Where are your weaknesses? Where does it break down? And that's the opportunity for you to improve yourself. And the more you know about where your body breaks down, where its weaknesses are, then you can prepare yourself for that eventuality, or do everything you can to mitigate that from happening out on the trail. It's like, because you absolutely will get to that point where your body is breaking down, and you need to recognize that point and to action it. Whether that's just stopping and just having a rest and break and eating and refueling, or being like, okay, I really need to press through this discomfort. I know it's not good for me, but I'm going to, do something else, like stretch or move or do
I think
something.
stretching I didn't even think about that, but that would have been really helpful for my back, but I didn't,
But in the context of bike fitting, like, this is kind of the stuff that we're looking for, isn't it? It's like, I call it the canary in the coal mine. Where's the first instance of compensation happening? And everyone has like one part of their body that starts to go first. Like, well, in my kind of anecdotal kind of experience, it's like, right, okay, where do the compensations start happening, and what are the potential consequences of said compensations? Because like we know, like bike riding, like anything endurance related, basically swimming, running, all that kind of stuff, it's repetitive. You're doing the same thing over and over again. And when those muscles that you're using over and over again start to fatigue, then the body's like, it's clever, it'll get the job done for you, but what is the cost of that? And how far can you kind of like negate those negative consequences of those compensations? Because they will happen. It's just how far into your race or your event or whatever you want to call it, are these compensations going to occur, and what are the potential ramifications of said consequences? So for you, like going back to your numb hands, like if you'd have like done a ton of like strength and conditioning, like core stability, like upper body strength and that sort of thing, would you have got a numb hand? Probably, but it might have happened later.
It
might not have been
bad.
so bad. So that's kind of the thing. It's like I'm picking on you here because you're here,
but
it's that kind of thing. It's like, yeah, it probably wouldn't have alleviated it altogether, but it might not have been as bad as it was. So that's something that I think is often not taken as seriously as, I mean, and Chris bangs this drum all the time, doesn't he? He must get sick of it. It's like banging his head against the wall. But that's essentially the thing,
He's so good at it.
Well, he's made an entire business around it. But it's that kind of thing, isn't it? It's like, does your body have the capacity to do what you're asking of it? No, it does not. So what are you going to do about it to kind of build that capacity as much as you can?
Well, what's been really interesting about this conversation is that we haven't really spoken that much about bike fitting. Like, the conversation's always kind of transferred to the body. It's very much about, what is your body capable of? Where is it compensating? Where is its weaknesses? What can it do? And the body is, like, these ultra endurance things they're not really about the bike.
Wait, this is bike fitting as well. It's not just about the bike, as we know.
I know.
So this is bike fit, but it's not bike fit, but it is.
we could just solve it with a crank change, can't we? Maybe like a shorter crank.
Well, we're like, bike fitting involves a human body, so we have to understand the human body.
Of course.
We are movement specialists at the end of the day. We're not, like, bike fitting does itself a disservice, I think, by calling itself bike fitting, because everyone thinks it's just about the bike, but yeah, everyone forgets about the engine, the meaty engine that's powering the bike.
Meaty engine? Oh, that's terrible.
Well, it's like we were saying earlier, wasn't it? Like with Lee and his setup, good bike, good position, well trained, still got no hand.
Yeah?
So
wah, wah.
Maybe you just needed a thicker glove.
I had a thick glove.
Some thicker
I had
bar
a
tape.
gravel glove.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, isn't
Just
it?
ride
It's
no
like-
hands next time, mate.
No hands?
Yeah, just no hands.
Bloody hell, that'd be fun on the descent.
But the bike will only do so much for you. I think that's the point, isn't it? And there are limitations. The bike is finite. There's only a certain amount of stuff you can adjust on it.
I think maybe checking yourself out, like that book that you lent me, The Lost Art of Running, it talks about how sometimes you'll slump after a while of doing something repetitive after a while, and you'll kind of start to slouch and things, and then you'll kind of check yourself out posturally and you kind of correct it again. And you can do that on the bike as well. I think that wasn't on my mind when I was doing the race, but it would have been handy for me to be like, oh, how is my back? What am I doing?
Checking in
how
with
are my
yourself.
legs? You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
That I think that's a good thing for people to think about as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's absolutely. This is where the blurry line of mental capacity but also physical capacity come into play. So we talked a lot about physical capacity in the body and how you can train it and how capable it is. And you try and train that so that you don't have to think about it. So you do your training before the event, you do your training to improve your body so that those movement patterns, that strength is automatic, it's ingrained, it's in your body, which leaves you kind of with mental capacity to deal with all the problems that you're going to face along the way. And it's when you start getting tired, when you have to start checking in with your body, because your body doesn't have the capacity, it's starting to run out of steam, it's starting to kind of tire, and so your brain has to, you know, back it up. It's kind of, you got to like, oh, check my posture out, am I still holding the position? The brain has to tell the body, hey, you know, stand up tall, straight, you know, keep going, and so on. And it's those moments and recognizing those moments of fatigue that are really important, where you can make the decision, or can you make the decision when you're tired, you know, what to do. Like, am I able to continue holding that posture? What happens if I don't hold that posture? What are the repercussions? And, you know, what should I do after that?
It just doesn't go in line with the romanticism of the whole thing. Like,
Yeah, I know.
You talk about the strength and conditioning. Unfortunately, people don't want to know it. They don't want to have to do that work, and
mate,
so we've got to try and figure out how to
Everyone's
get people
got
to
a
do
plan
it.
until they get punched in the face.
But it's just not as exciting, is it? You think, oh, you're doing an endurance race, I just need to ride my bike. Just need to ride my bike for loads of number of miles, maybe put in some kind of hill reps now and again, and Bob's your uncle.
Mate, this is real life. This isn't Instagram. Like, this is the.
But so yeah, we
Where
need
come smell the coffee?
we need to make it. We need to make strength and conditioning sexy. How do we do
Yeah,
it?
but this is the problem.
We ain't going to do that.
Yeah, this is why bike fitting. Bike fitting's not sexy. It's not cool. My goodness. I don't know if you can hear that, but our wall is about to fall down.
Kids are back to school doing
Kids
cycling
Yeah.
sessions.
Yeah.
I think they're doing wheelies on our wall.
But it's true, isn't it? It's like, you know, the stuff that is going to push you usually to that next level of competence or like, you know, enjoyment or whatever it is, or that next level of like extremity to your event is usually stuff that people don't want to do.
Well, people want the result, don't they? They want to cross the line, arms aloft. They want to be kissing their child. They want to be, you know, running down the running chute with their children.
They're not willing to do the work.
Yeah, but I think
Being facetious, obviously.
Yeah, but like, yeah, that image is so ingrained these days, and we just see the results all the time. Result, like gram. It's always there, and yeah, that's why. You know, seeing people that kind of highlight the process is really interesting, and that's really where so much value comes out of it. And you know, I mean, maybe that's just the nature of an event itself. Like I've always seen events as the icing on the cake. The real kind of interesting part is the training that goes into that event itself. Like, it takes up way more time than the event. You learn so much more about yourself. You are kind of literally building yourself up to this point where, amazing event. If it happens on the day, then that's amazing, and you get the cake and the ice cream and the t-shirt at the end.
I think the main problem is people that like to do these races, they just like riding their bikes, you know. It's not like, again, just referencing the crit things, it's not like marginal gains and stuff like that. It's people that fundamentally love being out, having an adventure, love riding their bikes. So I guess the seriousness of strength and conditioning doesn't quite correlate
It's
with,
off-putting.
you know,
Yeah,
and I
sure.
think that's,
It doesn't
it's
fit
fair
the
enough to
ethos.
think, because I probably do belong to that as well. But I know how important it is, but it just doesn't quite fit in with, I just want to ride my bike. I want to ride my bike a long way.
Yeah, totally get that. And I'm the same. It's like, if I had my way, I'd just go out and run. Like, but in order to be able to run, because I've been burnt so many times, I have to do the strength work.
Yeah.
Because without it, I can't do what I enjoy doing. So it's kind of like a practice in delayed gratification. So it's kind of like, I need to do this. Yeah, it sucks, but this is going to allow me to do what I want to do. And like, what's the, is it worth the trade-off? Absolutely it is, yeah. So it's like that practice of not getting everything you want first time and straight away is actually quite a good and kind of like healthy thing to kind of go through.
I mean, we all got here because we've all been burnt. Like, we all had that mentality of like just going out and smashing it and, giving it a go. And we've all ended up with all kinds of ailments and so on. So, but as you said, it's part of that learning process. And guiding people through that idea, just even the idea that in order to ride better requires you to do less riding and more time doing something else. It might not be gym, it could be like rock climbing,
whatever,
yoga, something else to kind of improve your body in the right kind of way. But I think there's definitely a point, and it's going to be different for everybody, that the challenge that you take on is going to be too much for your body to cope with by just doing bike riding.
Yeah.
Like, just doing bike riding will definitely get you to a certain point without injury, still enjoying it, without, health deficiencies and all the rest of it. But you cross that line and your body will respond. It will let you know that it's not happy. It will find ways of telling you that you haven't eaten enough, you're energy deficient, or it will give you an injury because your body's not strong enough, or you get numb hands because you've just been doing the same thing for too long, for too much. I think people just need to go on that journey of trying to figure it out objectively rather than emotionally. I think we get a lot of emotional responses to the situations that people find themselves in, and sometimes it's anger, sometimes it's fear, sometimes it's stress, just everything adds into it. So if you're taking on a tough challenge, then the road to that challenge is going to be tough too.
For sure. When I got my results back from this kind of nerve conduction test I had a few weeks ago, and they were like, everything's fine, and the one thing they recommended was not riding a bike for that long. And the second one was physiotherapy. So it just shows, even being aware of your body like that is, going to do wonders. So it's a personal responsibility, I guess, to kind of look after yourself, to keep yourself checked. And I mean, we've only talked about ultra endurance. Obviously, expectations as a bike fit comes with performance as well, injury prevention. There's so many stuff. I mean, I guess we can only talk about that today.
We can do another one on that. Like, we could talk about bike fit all day long.
Yeah, because bike fitting does actually make you 20 miles an hour faster. That's what I've heard.
Only 20?
Yeah. Miles an hour faster than you were before.
Every time?
What, you want to do kilometres?
Every time.
We'll get into that next time though. But if you want to know about that,
but yeah, it is. There's pain and discomfort expectations versus reality, but there's also performance expectations versus reality as well. Like, a bike fit might not make you faster immediately, and that's okay. Like, there's a whole world to unpack of like performance related stuff as well.
I guess that'll have to be a different one then.
Yeah, we'll do another one. So,
well, when Ed's not here next, we'll do it. We'll pick this up again. So you won't want to talk about this.
Well, let us know if you enjoyed this episode. Let us know if we want to continue on this, and if there's anything else you want us to kind of unpack. But this was definitely an ultra endurance special.
If you didn't enjoy this episode, it's probably going to happen again anyway. So don't worry about it.
So don't worry. Don't even comment.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, hopefully Lee will be a married man by then. And,
hopefully. What the hell?
There's still
Jesus.
It's not done until it's done, Lee.
It ain't over till the...
That smoothie's worn off. You look
Do I
stressed,
look ill?
stressed, mate.
God.
All right, let's turn it off.
Bye.
If you liked what you heard today, please go ahead and leave us a 5-star rating or review, as this helps us massively to grow the show. And the more we grow, the more we can help riders like yourself get even more out of their riding. And finally, if you're suffering from numb hands, tingling toes and other persistent discomforts, is your bike fit as good as it can be? If you're curious to find out, get in touch with Matt or Wei at foundation.fit. For all your bike servicing needs, custom dream bikes and wheel builds, get in touch with Ev. Email him workshop@frequencycycleworks.com or get in touch on Instagram @frequencycycleworks. Alright, till next time, keep on spinning.